Good evening. I promised that I would come back and ask a few questions. First of all, I want to thank everyone that took a moment to submit some questions. If I don't get to several of them right now, I promise probably before tonight is over and/or tomorrow, I certainly will. One of the things that was asked is, I'll paraphrase it the way that it was at least addressed to me. What about the system? The system being rigged. Well, we do know that there is some rigging going on. Unfortunately, the rigging really comes in the area of people that are deceased, are still on the rolls, people that should be able to present an ID. And I recommend everyone that's watching me right now, please take a moment and go out to YouTube. Our president actually was on what is called the Neil Cavuto show. And he actually stated on the show that, this is hard to even believe until you see it for yourself, that people even here illegally should vote. I know that's crazy, but it's illegal. It's unconstitutional. So are you talking about it being rigged? Oh, absolutely. One of the other questions that I had, and I thought it was really a great question, an excellent question, and that was the issue of both candidates are deplorable kind of people, and boy, they have so much baggage. That's true. But I want you to remember something. You're not just voting for a candidate, you're voting for a principle. If you are a Christian, can I recommend that you go out and study, for instance, Isaiah 45? Let me tell you what you'll find. You will actually find that God himself raised up a king by the name of Cyrus. Cyrus was not a covenant keeper. He wasn't in good relationship. As a matter of fact, he was actually a heathen. And God not only raised him up, he used him to really restore Israel back to its original place, at least what God had for them in mind. So when you're voting for a candidate, sometimes you got to be a little more mature and look at it from the angle of perhaps voting for a principle. Look at the platform. And here are some of the things that you want to ask yourself. And I asked a young lady this today in a restaurant. When she shared with me, I didn't tell her who I was. I just simply asked her a question. Actually, there's one of my friends that actually asked a question about who she's voting for, and she shared why. She's a young entrepreneur, but one of her many jobs, she said, was she serves at a local restaurant. And I simply asked her a question that I want to ask you. If you had a dollar that you made every hour, and the government was going to take 50 cents of it, would you prefer that, or would you prefer a government that would only take 15 cents? I'll ask another question. If you know someone whose kids, for instance, may be struggling in a very poor school district, maybe it's really bad, gang-ridden, should that mom have an opportunity to take her tax dollars and send that baby to wherever he or she wants to send that child to a better school? If you answered yes on both of those questions, you actually just voted for a Republican. Let me ask you one more question. If you had an opportunity to stop, for instance, a genocide, if you found out there was a genocide that was going on and the genocide was killing 50% of all Polish children or all German children or all Spanish children, would you stop it? I would like to think you would say yes. Well, this is what the Republican Party is trying to do, and that's repeal what is called Planned Parenthood, because the founder of Planned Parenthood actually stated, and again, my video, if you've never seen it, please go out to Bishop Aubrey Shines on Facebook. Check it out. It will blow your mind. The founder of Planned Parenthood actually was a eugenicist. Now, what is that? In a nutshell, is someone who believes in destroying the lives of people for a greater cause. Well, that is what she believed blacks were. She thought blacks were inferior. You say, well, what does that have to do with the election? Everything. Hillary Clinton actually received the award of what's called the Margaret Sanger Award. Margaret Sanger is actually the founder of Planned Parenthood. Her whole desire was to destroy the entire black race. Why? She said it was inferior, that they were not superior thinkers, and they really needed to be exterminated. A lot of you are finding these things hard to believe, but the information is out there. It has been suppressed. And I think it's really a travesty for that reason. So these are just a few of the questions that I hope I've answered at least in part. Now, for those of you that say, well, it really doesn't matter, because God is in control. May I remind you of something if you are a believer? God is in control, but he gives the responsibility to his children. Remember, the earth is the Lord's, but when he left, he being Christ, he said, I'm leaving, but I'm going to make you the guard keeper over it. I'm going to make you the manager, the supervisor. And so we do have a responsibility. We can't close our eyes and just hope everything works well. Jesus himself said, don't just pray. He says, but be involved. Watch what you're doing. Even his brother James said, if you have faith, he said, that's good. He says, but faith without you putting it into practice, he said, it really doesn't mean anything. So I want to encourage you, really get involved. You got to know the issues. And again, anybody can just go along with the current stream. Anybody can go along with the flow and say, oh, I'm going to do it because everybody else is doing it. Everybody's going this way. I'm going to be that way. Are you a leader or are you a follower? I can tell you, if you're just a follower, then you're not going to see, no need to make a change. But I want to appeal to you. And if you're white, I want to appeal to your conscience. If you're black, I want to appeal to your conscience. If you're Latino, I want to appeal to your conscience. If you see yourself as a person that God have put on this earth to make a difference, then let's make a difference. Let's not become what everybody else is. Let's become what God would have us to be. You say, well, is that a Republican or Democrat? Neither. But he does want us to be responsible people. And responsible people would never do anything to hurt people that are downtrodden. And I believe this is what's going on right now. So again, I want to really encourage you, get involved, know the issues. And I want to say this to you. I have this question all the time. My church doesn't teach this. We should separate politics from the pulpit. It would only take you probably no more than 20 minutes to go through the scripture. Let me tell you what you would find from Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation. God's people were always involved in the current politics. As a matter of fact, Abraham was involved. He stood before the prime minister of his day. So did Joseph. He stood before the prime minister of Egypt of his day. You say, well, that was in the Old Testament. Well, let me remind you of the New Testament. Jesus stood before Pontius Pilate. Paul the apostle actually stood before King Agrippa and Caesar as well. They were constantly in the face of the government saying things need to change. We have that responsibility. We cannot just close our eyes and pretend somebody is going to just do it for us or God is just going to do it. That's just negligence. Every night, I hope when you go home, you lock your door. See, if you have the belief, well, it really doesn't matter, then let me encourage you. When you get in your car, don't lock your door. Leave your money on the seat. Don't ever lock your doors in the home. Don't have an alarm system. After all, God will take care of it. I think you kind of see my argument, and hopefully you'll take that same application and do something with it as it relates to your voting. Listen, I'm going to come back hopefully today, and I'll share again with you the other remaining questions. But until then, I really do bid you peace. God bless you.